What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Zero Excuses podcast. My name is Kenyon Zitska, your host and founder of this podcast that you're listening to right now. This is the Deacons of Discipline series, and I have a cool little soundbite from retired Admiral William McRaven lined up for you. He's best known for his speech that he gave in 2011 at the University of Texas commencement about making your bed, doing simple things. But I have a little different soundbite. I don't have something from that particular speech. It's well known, and if I was honest, I would assume that most people have that listen to this podcast have listened to it. But the soundbite that I wanted to bring to you today, he talks about giving people room to maneuver. I've been guilty about not giving people room to maneuver in my life, in my professional life, in my military life, and it really was a bit of a splash of cold water in the face, if you will, when I heard this soundbite. So I wanted to play it for you guys and then kind of break it down for you a little bit into some practical steps that you can implement into your life right now, and stop hovering over your kids, stop hovering over your coworkers or your subordinates or whoever it may be. So here it is.
Later on became the commander of all the West Coast SEAL teams. And it was interesting because when I was the commanding officer of SEAL Team 3, you're always concerned that the guy above you, as Greg said, everybody's got a boss. In the military, you got bosses. But the boss right above me when I was a SEAL Team commander, I was a Navy commander, he was a Navy captain, and we called him the Commodore. And I always thought that the Commodore was watching everything I did, and that every time a kid got in a bar fight in Coronado, California, which seemed to happen quite a bit, that somehow, he had his list out there, and McRaven's team, they got another check on the block, another kid went to, And so when I became Commodore, and I will tell you what that did, when you had this kind of fear of the guy above you, it did kind of constrain how you operated as a leader as a SEAL team. So I told myself when I became the Commodore, which I did, I called in all of my commanding officers and I said, look guys, here's the deal. I said, I'm not watching your command every day. I'm not seeing who's screwed up and what you could have done better. What I want to do though is I want to make sure that when there is a problem, you're solving that problem. That's how I'm going to grade you. It's not that there are problems unless they become consistent problems. But I wanted to give them room to maneuver. Mental room to maneuver so that they could take some risks, so that they could implement change, so they could do the things they thought they needed to do without feeling that I was always pressuring them to do that.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed that little soundbite there from the good Admiral. First practical tip, or I guess idea that I want to talk about from that soundbite is that, the other day I was, I've got a 2.5-year-old, almost 3 now, daughter, and we're trying to teach her about picking up after herself, doing small little chores that she's capable of doing, and we're bumping into a bunch of resistance, and it's really tempting for me to take the easy road and just pick things up. And I see a lot of leaders, a lot of alpha men, a lot of people who get all up in their subordinates' business because they aren't doing it quite the way that they would do it, or they're not doing quite as thorough of a job. And when we do that, we really stifle people's growth. If we are always up in their business, if we're always micromanaging them, they're always going to be constantly looking over their shoulder to see if we're going to criticize them or if we're just going to say fuck it and we do the work for them anyways. That does absolutely nothing for anyone. It frustrates you, and it frustrates the employee, your kids, whoever it may be, and they're always going to be risk averse. They're not going to be willing to take a step out of their comfort zone and risk you coming behind them and ultimately criticizing them for doing a bad job or not working out quite right. We really have to shift our mindset into, instead of demeaning the result, and praise the effort despite the result. The second point that I want to make about this little soundbite is quite simply that nobody has time for that shit. Like, I don't have time to be running around and checking up on the particulars of every single one of my sailors or my subordinates' work. We absolutely have to give a little bit of blind trust to those that work for us or our kids. And, we're only going to get frustrated if we are constantly running around checking our employees or our kids' work. How many times have you got to the end of your workday and asked, man, I didn't get shit done? Well, I'm willing to bet that you're probably the type of person that is constantly running around checking on your employees to see if they're doing a good job and not trusting them. We have to have some blind trust there. We have to trust but verify. So, that's what I want to leave you guys with here today. And, I really enjoy listening to Admiral William McRaven talk. He's got a ton of videos and keynote addresses out there. So I encourage you guys to check out his work and what he's got going on, because he always drops some gold nuggets anytime he talks. All right, guys, have a kick-ass weekend, and I will talk with you soon.